Before we begin today's story, please don't forget to subscribe and help share these emotional tales with others who may find comfort or reflection through them. And if you've ever experienced something similar, if you've cared for your parents, or watched them grow old while time pulled you apart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes a single story, or a single word, can bring warmth to someone's heart. There's a saying that echoes through generations. Parents give endlessly, like the sea without a shore. But when it's their turn to receive, their children count by the day, by the month. This is the story of Mr. Thang and Mrs. Han, a couple who spent their entire lives raising two children, Phúc and Vy. They gave everything, youth, health, and dreams, to build a home of love. But when the years turned their hair white and their bodies weak, they learned the hardest truth. The love between parents and children is not always returned in the same measure. The small riverside town of Tan Phuoc woke each morning to the sound of oars dipping into still water, the scent of early rice, and the cries of children running barefoot through the fields. Among the simple wooden houses stood a weathered one with faded blue walls and a mango tree shading its front yard. It belonged to Mr. Thang and Mrs. Han, a humble couple whose entire lives revolved around their two children, Phúc and Vy. Thang was a fisherman. Every dawn he would row his small wooden boat into the misty waters of the river, his hands rough, his skin darkened by years of labor. Han, meanwhile, sold vegetables in the village market. She was small and gentle, yet her strength came not from muscle, but from an unyielding will to see her family live better than she had. "Eat more, Phúc," she would say, watching her son gulp down rice before school. "You'll need strength to study hard. One day, you'll leave this village and become someone great." "I will, Mama," he'd grin, his teeth white against sunburned cheeks. "I'll buy you a big house when I grow up." Life was never easy, but it was full of warmth. Rain or shine, Thang and Han worked tirelessly, never thinking of rest, never counting the hours. When floods came, Thang's fishing nets were destroyed. When droughts arrived, the vegetables wilted. Yet every hardship seemed smaller when they looked into the faces of their children. At night, the family gathered under the yellow light of an old bulb. Han mended clothes, Thang fixed fishing nets, while Phúc and Vy studied beside them. Sometimes the silence was broken by laughter, simple, pure, and real. "Our children will have a different life," Thang would whisper to Han when the children were asleep. "They won't suffer like we did." "That's all I pray for," she'd reply softly. "Even if we grow old with nothing, as long as they're happy, it's worth it." The years rolled on. Phúc, the eldest, excelled in school, earning scholarships that brought pride to the entire village. Vy, bright and cheerful, dreamed of becoming a teacher. Every success, every small victory felt like a reward for all the sacrifices. And though money was tight, Thang and Han never let their children feel it. They sold jewelry, borrowed money, even skipped meals, all to make sure Phúc and Vy could study, eat well, and have what other kids had. There's an old saying in Vietnam, "Parents' hearts are like the sea, deep, vast, and forgiving." And so the sea of Thang and Han's love carried their children far. But as time went on, and as the tides of life began to change, that sea would one day turn quiet and painfully empty. The morning Phúc left for the city, the sun had barely risen. The river shimmered with a soft layer of mist, and the sky was painted in hues of pale orange. Mr. Thang and Mrs. Han woke earlier than usual, bustling around the house, folding clothes, packing a small bag with rice cakes, salted fish, and a jar of pickled vegetables. "Just in case city food doesn't taste right," Han said with a bittersweet smile. Phúc, now a young man, stood by the door in a clean white shirt and a nervous grin. His eyes sparkled with both excitement and guilt. "Ma, Ba, I'll come home often, okay? Once I find a job, I'll send money every month." Han nodded but said nothing. Her hands trembled as she tied the last knot on his bag. Thang placed a rough hand on his son's shoulder, firm but gentle. "Don't worry about us. Just focus on studying, working hard. That's all a parent could ever want." As the bus honked, announcing its departure, Han's heart sank. She waved until the vehicle disappeared behind the curve of the dusty road. The moment it was gone, she whispered to her husband, "The house feels empty already." Thang sighed, looking toward the horizon. "That's how it is, Han. We raise them to fly. We can't keep them in the nest forever." Months passed, and letters came. At first, every week brought a note from Phúc. Stories about his new school, his roommates, his struggle to find part-time jobs. Each envelope smelled faintly of city dust, and each word carried the warmth of home. But slowly, the letters came less often, from once a week to once a month, to only during holidays. When Vi graduated and found a teaching internship in another province, Han felt her heart ache again. She smiled proudly, yet deep down, something in her broke, a quiet emptiness that no one saw. The little house by the river, once filled with laughter and footsteps, grew quieter with each passing day. The old wooden floor no longer creaked from children running across it. Meals became smaller, simpler. Han still cooked enough for 4, even though only 2 would eat. One evening, as she placed bowls of rice on the table, she caught herself setting out 4 pairs of chopsticks. She froze, staring at the empty spots. "Old habits?" she murmured, wiping her eyes quickly. Thang watched her in silence, his heart heavy but words stuck in his throat. He had never been good with emotions, but he felt the same hollowness, like the sound of oars cutting through water with no echo. They had sacrificed their youth for their children, and now the silence of the house felt like both a reward and a punishment. Sometimes Han would sit by the riverbank, gazing at the boats drifting lazily downstream. She remembered when Phúc used to wave at his father from the boat, shouting, "Bah! Catch a big fish today!" And Vi would laugh, clapping her little hands. Those voices had once filled every corner of her world. Now, only the wind answered. The villagers often saw her there, sitting alone, holding her phone, checking for messages that didn't come. They must be busy, she told herself. Work in the city is hard. I shouldn't bother them. But every night she still left the light on outside, as if hoping that someday someone would come home late and need to see the way. Phúc did come home once, after almost a year. He wore a collared shirt, smelled faintly of cologne, and brought a box of fruit and a bottle of wine. Han's eyes shone like the sun after a long rain. "You've grown so much," she said, touching his face as if afraid he'd vanish. That night they cooked together. Fried fish, stewed pork, and sticky rice, just like old times. The house came alive again. Laughter returned, but the visit was short. The next morning, Phúc looked at his watch and sighed. Bah, I have to go. My company needs me back by tonight." The words cut through the air like a blade. Han tried to hide her disappointment behind a smile. "Of course, dear. Work is important." After he left, the silence returned, heavier than before. Vi's visits were no different. She always came rushing in, stayed a night or two, then rushed off again, promising to come back soon. But soon never seemed to arrive. Birthdays were missed. The new year was spent elsewhere. Calls became shorter. "I'm busy, Mom. I'll call you when I have time." Han would nod even though the line had already gone silent. Thang aged faster after that. His back bent more, his hair thinned, but he still rowed his small boat down the river every morning. Not for fish anymore, but because he didn't know what else to do. Routine was the only thing that made time move. One morning, as he sat watching the sunrise, he said softly, "Funny, isn't it? We spent our lives giving them wings, but when they flew, we forgot how to live without them." Han, sitting beside him, said nothing. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured tea. In that moment, both of them realized something neither wanted to say aloud. They had given their children everything. Their strength, their time, their love. But now that the nest was empty, there was nothing left for themselves. At night, the house by the river was quiet. The ticking clock sounded louder than ever, and the light above the porch flickered softly against the dark. Han looked up at the stars and whispered, "As long as they're happy." It's enough. But deep in her heart, she wondered, would her children remember this house? Would they still think of the hands that once held theirs through every storm? The river kept flowing. The tides rose and fell. But in the heart of two aging parents, time had stopped the day their children left. The city had swallowed Phuc whole. He used to say he'd never let the city change him, that no matter how busy he became, he'd always remember home. But time, like the tide, has a way of softening even the sharpest promises. At 28, Phuc was a project manager in a real estate company. His days were full of meetings, his nights full of deadlines. He wore polished shoes, spoke in measured tones, and learned to smile politely even when he was exhausted. On his office desk, there was still a small framed photo of his family, taken the summer before he left for college. His mother's hair was still black then, his father's still strong. He had promised to visit every 2 months. That promise had long faded into memory. Each time his mother called, he'd glance at the ringing phone and think, "I'll call her back later." Later became tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. And eventually, silence. One evening, as he sat at a fancy restaurant with colleagues, his phone buzzed again. "Mom," flashed on the screen. He stared at it for a few seconds, hesitated, and pressed ignore. He told himself he'd call her after dinner, but the moment passed, drowned beneath laughter, wine, and meaningless talk about promotions and cars. When he got home past midnight, he noticed a text. "Phuc, your father has been coughing all week. I keep telling him to see a doctor, but he refuses. Call him when you have time, okay?" He read it, smiled faintly, and replied, "I will, Mom. Please take care of yourselves." He didn't call. Back in Tan Phuoc, the river had grown shallow with the dry season. Mr. Thang sat outside the house, coughing lightly, watching the same horizon he'd stared at for decades. Mrs. Han sat beside him, knitting slowly, her fingers stiff from arthritis. "It's been almost a year since Phuc came home," she said quietly. "He's busy," Thang replied, forcing a smile. "We wanted him to have a better life, didn't we? This is what it looks like." "I know," she whispered, "but sometimes I just wish he'd call without me having to ask." Silence followed, the kind of silence that builds not from anger, but from acceptance. Vi, their daughter, wasn't much different. Her teaching job kept her in another province where she was trying to save money to buy a small apartment. "Mom, I'm so busy. I'll come home at the end of the year," she'd promise. But when the year ended, something always came up. A school trip, a staff meeting, or simply exhaustion. She loved her parents, of course, but love, left unattended, becomes habit. And habits fade. Sometimes she sent small gifts through delivery. Boxes of tea, a new blanket, vitamin supplements. But what her parents wanted wasn't things. It was her voice, her presence, her laughter in the house that had grown too quiet. One rainy afternoon, the phone rang again. It was Vi. Han's face lit up like sunlight after weeks of clouds. "Vi, how are you, dear?" "I'm good, Mom. How are you and Dad?" "Your father keeps coughing. I tell him to see a doctor, but he just laughs and says he'll wait until you come home." There was a pause. "Oh, Dad is so stubborn. Tell him not to wait for me. Just go." "I already told him, but he won't listen. He misses you." Vi's heart tightened. For a brief moment, guilt flickered, but she pushed it away. "I'll come home as soon as I can, okay, Mom?" That night, she returned to grading papers, scrolling through social media, and chatting with friends. The promise faded before the ink dried on her students' essays. Months turned into a year. The cracks between generations widened. Not through cruelty, but through distance. Each child convinced themselves their parents understood. that love didn't always need to be spoken, that they were doing enough. Meanwhile, Mr. Thang's cough worsened. He refused to go to the hospital. "I don't want to bother them," he said. "They have their own lives now." At night, Mrs. Han sat by his side, pressing a warm towel to his chest, whispering prayers. Every sound of coughing cut through her heart like a blade. "Just hold on," she murmured. "Maybe they'll come home this Tet." But when Tet came, neither did. Puck called, voice cheerful but distant. "Mom, I'm busy with a new project. I'll come after the holiday, okay?" Vi sent money and a video message of herself smiling. "Please don't be sad, Mom and Dad. I love you both so much." The money bought food. The words brought brief comfort. But the silence afterward was louder than the fireworks outside. That night, under the sound of distant laughter from other families, Han sat alone on the porch. She looked at the offerings on the ancestral altar, at her husband's slow breathing inside the house, and whispered, "People say children will care for their parents when they grow old. But maybe the world has changed. Maybe it's enough that they remember us once in a while." Tears rolled down her face, falling silently onto the wooden floor. The old clock ticked. The wind blew gently through the mango leaves. And somewhere, in a city full of lights, two children went about their lives, unaware that the promises they once made had already faded into the night. The phone rang just as Hook was preparing for an early meeting. It was 6:30 in the morning. The sky outside still pale and tired. He frowned at the unfamiliar number, half expecting a work-related call. But when he picked up, it wasn't a client. It was his cousin, Than. His voice trembled. "Fook, it's your dad. He's in the hospital." The world seemed to tilt slightly. Fook blinked, trying to process the words. "Hospital? What happened?" "He collapsed last night. They said it's serious. You and Vi should come home. Now." The line went quiet for a few seconds before Than added softly, "Your mom's been crying all night." Fook didn't remember how he got to the airport. His assistant handled his meetings, his phone buzzed with unanswered messages, and his mind felt like it was underwater. He just remembered sitting on the plane, staring at the empty seat beside him, wishing Vi were there. She had called earlier, sobbing. "I'm trying to get a ticket, An. The buses are full. Just get here, Vi, whatever it takes." For years, neither of them had managed to come home. Now, they were racing back, as if their absence could be erased by urgency. At Tan Puak Hospital, the air smelled faintly of disinfectant and rain. Han sat outside the emergency ward, hands clasped tightly, eyes swollen from crying. When she saw Fook running down the corridor, she stood up slowly, voice trembling. "You're here." He nodded, tears brimming. "Mom, how's Dad?" The doctor said. "His heart is very weak. He still hasn't woken up." The words hit him like a wave. For a long time, he couldn't speak. He just stood there, staring through the glass door, at the frail figure on the bed, wires running across his chest, the oxygen mask fogging with each weak breath. Inside, Mr. Thang looked nothing like the father in his memories. The strong man who once carried him on his shoulders was now pale, sunken, fragile. Fook felt something break inside. "Dad," he whispered, pressing his hand against the glass. "I'm home now." But his father couldn't hear him. Vi arrived hours later, still in her work clothes, eyes red. She hugged her mother tightly, crying uncontrollably. "Mom, why didn't you call us sooner?" "I didn't want to bother you," Han said softly. "I thought it was just a cold." "Mom, how could you think that? We would have—" But she couldn't finish, because deep down, she knew. They were the ones who made their parents believe they were a burden. Days passed in a blur of medicine, machines, and prayers. Puksh slept in a hospital chair, clutching his father's hand. Vi helped her mother with meals and paperwork. Sometimes, when Thang stirred slightly, Puksh would lean close and whisper, "Dad, I'm sorry. I've been so busy, but I'm here now. Please wake up." The old man's lips moved faintly, almost forming a smile, but his eyes never opened. On the 5th day, the machines fell silent. The doctor's voice was calm, practiced. He passed peacefully. For a moment, the room stood still. The rain outside softened to a drizzle, and then came the sound of Is cry. A sound that seemed to echo through the walls, through time itself, through every missed call and broken promise. Phúc sank to his knees beside the bed, holding his father's cold hand. "Dad, I'm sorry. I came back too late." Vi stood behind him, trembling. She reached out and placed her hand on her father's chest, where his heart had once beaten so strongly. "Dad, I promise I'll take care of Mom. I promise." Her voice cracked and she couldn't continue. The funeral was simple, quiet, just like Mr. Thang's life. Neighbors came offering words of comfort. He was a good man, they said. Never complained, always smiled. Phúc and Vy stood side by side, their faces pale, their hearts heavy with the weight of regret. Han, though exhausted, remained composed. She didn't blame her children. She just held their hands and whispered, "Your father wasn't angry. He just didn't want you to worry." Her forgiveness was gentle, but it made the guilt even sharper. After the burial, the three of them returned to the old house. The evening sun cast a golden hue on the wooden walls. Everything looked the same. The garden, the bamboo gate, the chair where Thang used to sit. And yet, everything felt hollow. Phúc walked to his father's chair, ran his hand along the worn armrest, and sat down. For the first time in years, he looked around and truly saw the place he had once called home. "I thought I had time," he said quietly. "We all did," Vi whispered, "but time doesn't wait for anyone." That night, Han sat between her two children. She looked tired, but there was a strange peace in her eyes. "Your father's gone peacefully," she said softly. "Don't carry the weight forever. Just don't forget what today has taught you." Her words lingered in the quiet room. Outside, the crickets sang softly, and a faint breeze rustled through the mango tree. It carried with it the smell of earth, of memory, of all the love that had been given freely and taken for granted. Sometimes it takes losing someone to realize that love is not infinite, that the people who raised us, who gave everything without asking for anything in return, won't be here forever. And when that truth comes too late, no amount of tears can wash away the silence we once chose. The house by the river felt different without him. The creaking wooden floors, the familiar scent of rice cooking, and the soft rustle of the mango leaves remained. But the warmth that once filled the rooms was gone. Phúc walked slowly through the main hall, his hands brushing along the furniture. Every corner held a memory. His father's laughter when he had tripped over a stool, the smell of his mother's cooking in the kitchen, the sound of Vi giggling as she chased their dog across the yard. "It's strange. Everything looks the same, but it's empty," he murmured. Vi sat on the porch swing, staring at the river. Her hands clutched a small scarf their father had worn the previous winter. "I never realized how much he did for us, how much he gave. Without asking for anything," she whispered. Han emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked tired, older than the day before, but her eyes carried a quiet strength. "Come inside," she said gently. "We have work to do. The house won't care for itself." In the days after the funeral, Phúc and Vy found themselves unexpectedly tethered to the routines of home. They cooked meals, cleaned the rooms, and repaired the small damages that had accumulated over years of neglect. At first, it felt tedious, a burden they had long avoided while chasing careers and dreams. But gradually, the work became a kind of meditation. Each sweep of the broom, each pot washed, each corner dusted was a step toward reconnecting with the life they had once taken for granted. "I never noticed how much Mom did for us every single day," Phúc said one morning, carrying water from the river. She's been holding everything together," Vi replied. "Even after we left, she kept this house alive." The siblings began to speak more, sharing memories, laughing at childhood mistakes, and slowly repairing the silent rift between them. Han watched them carefully. She said little, but her heart was swelling with a mix of sorrow and relief. They finally see it, she thought. They finally understand that love isn't just words. It's actions, presence, care. Some evenings, she would sit in her chair by the kitchen window, knitting quietly while Phúc and Vy prepared dinner. The sound of clattering pots, sizzling oil, and the occasional laugh felt like a balm for her aching heart. One evening, Phúc placed a bowl of steaming rice on the table and said softly, "Ma, I'm sorry for everything. I should have called more. I should have visited sooner." Han smiled gently, her eyes glistening. "I know, Con. You've been busy, but being here now, that's what matters." Vi, standing beside her brother, nodded silently. She had tears on her cheeks, but also a strange lightness, as if a heavy burden had finally been lifted. The siblings began to explore the old fields together. The riverbank where they used to play, the small garden that had once been their mother's pride, the fishing nets drying in the sun, all became reminders of a past they had ignored. Phúc picked up a hoe and started tilling the soil. "We should plant something here," he said. "Not just for food, but for us. A memory of him." Vi laughed softly. "A tree, maybe. Something that will grow, like the love he gave us." Han nodded, tears falling freely now. "It doesn't matter what you plant. As long as you care for it together, it will carry our family forward." Days turned into weeks, and slowly a rhythm returned to the house. The siblings took turns cooking, cleaning, and tending the garden. Han's health was fragile, but the company of her children brought her joy and energy she hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, while Phúc repaired the roof, Vi sat beside her mother in the yard. "Ma, we didn't realize how much we missed all this. We were so focused on ourselves." Han placed a hand on Vi's. "It's natural to grow and leave, Con, but now you're back, and that's what matters." "We'll stay longer this time," Vi promised. "And we'll call more often," Phúc added. For the first time in years, the house felt full again, not just with sounds, but with love, presence, and responsibility shared. As night fell, the three of them sat on the porch, gazing at the river. The moonlight danced on the water, casting a gentle glow on the wooden floors. "He would have loved this," Phúc said softly. "He would have been proud that we came back." "He's always with us," Vi whispered. Han, looking at her children, felt a wave of gratitude. "Even if he isn't here, the love he gave you, the life we shared, that will never leave." For the first time in months, the house didn't feel empty. It was alive with memory, with presence, and with the promise that care, attention, and love could restore what time had threatened to erase. That night, as the river whispered and the stars shone above, Han realized something profound. Love isn't just about giving. It's also about teaching those who were raised to remember, respect, and return it. Phúc and Vi had finally understood. They had returned to a home that was waiting patiently, ready to forgive, ready to heal, ready to continue, together. And outside, the mango tree rustled gently in the night breeze, as if nodding in approval. The days after the funeral slowly turned into weeks, and the rhythm of life in the riverside home began to settle once again. But this time, something had changed. The once empty house was now filled with quiet sounds, the clinking of dishes, the gentle hum of a broom, and the laughter that came and went like small ripples on still water. It wasn't happiness exactly, but rather the beginning of healing. Phúc woke up early every morning, just as his father used to sweep the yard and check on the small vegetable garden they had started near the fence. He wasn't cute and used to the physical labor. His soft office hands blistered easily, but he didn't complain. Each cut, each ache, felt like a piece of his guilt being worked off. Vi handled the cooking. She had never been good at it before, but now she took it seriously. Waking early to learn her mother's recipes, burning a few meals, laughing at her own mistakes, and slowly improving. "The rice is a little salty," Han said one evening, smiling gently as she ate. "I know," Vi sighed. "I'll get it right next time." "It's good," her mother said softly. "You made it with heart. That's what counts." One morning, Fuchs brought home a box of paints and brushes. He looked at the faded walls of the living room and said, "I think it's time this place looked alive again." Vi clapped her hands, delighted. "Yes, let's make it bright like before." They spent the whole afternoon painting, laughing when they accidentally smeared color on each other's faces. Han watched them from the doorway, her heart swelling. It had been so long since she'd heard that kind of laughter, the kind that came from love, not politeness. When they finished, the walls shone a soft cream color, and on one wall, Fuchs carefully framed an old photograph, their family portrait from 20 years ago. In it, their father stood tall behind them, a gentle hand resting on Han's shoulder. "He would have liked this," Vi said, wiping her eyes. "He's here," Fuchs whispered, "in every corner." That night, after dinner, Fuchs sat with his mother on the porch, staring out at the moonlit river. The crickets chirped, and the night breeze carried the scent of wet earth. "Ma," he began softly, "when Con was in the city, I used to think success meant money. A big house, a car, status, but none of that feels right anymore." Han looked at him thoughtfully. "That's because success without peace feels empty." He nodded slowly. "You and Ba. You gave everything without counting, but we only remembered to call when it was convenient. You're remembering now," she said gently. "That's what matters. Some people never do." He looked at her hands, thin, veined, trembling slightly as she poured tea. And in that moment, Fuchs realized that redemption wasn't about grand gestures. It was about being there, about noticing the hands that fed you, the voice that waited for your call, the eyes that never stopped searching for you at the end of the road. The next morning, Vi suggested something new. "Let's open the old market stall again, Ma, the one you used to run with Ba. We can sell vegetables from our garden. I'll help you manage it." Han hesitated. "I'm too old for that now." "Then let us be your hands," Vi said with a smile. "You just sit and talk with the customers like you used to." And so they did. Within days, the little stall by the riverside was alive again. Colorful baskets of greens and herbs laid out neatly, the smell of fresh produce mixing with morning dew. Neighbors stopped by, surprised and delighted. "It's been years since we saw this place open." "Your mother's smile hasn't changed at all." Han would laugh shyly while Fuchs weighed vegetables and Vi handled the payments. It wasn't much, but every sale, every familiar face made them feel closer to the roots they had forgotten. At night, the three would sit around the dinner table, tired but content. Fuchs' hands were rougher now, Vi's skin tanned from the sun, and Han looked healthier, her eyes brighter. "You two remind me of how we started," she said one night, looking at them fondly. "When Ba and I first married, we had nothing but hope and each other." "We're trying to rebuild that hope," Vi said softly. "You already are," her mother replied, "one small act at a time." But healing isn't a straight line. There were still moments when guilt crept in, when Fuchs stayed up late staring at his father's photograph, whispering apologies to the silence, when Vi caught herself glancing at the empty chair at dinner, imagining her father's quiet smile. Still, they didn't run from those feelings anymore. They let the pain sit with them, understanding that it was proof of love, proof that something inside them still cared deeply despite the years lost. And every day they did something, anything, to make that love visible again. Weeks later, on a clear morning, Han stood by the garden, watching her children water the plants. She smiled quietly and whispered a prayer. "Thank you," she said to the sky, for bringing them home, for giving me this time. She didn't know how many days she had left, but for the first time in years, she felt complete. The house was alive again. The laughter had returned, and the bond between them, once stretched thin by distance, was strong again, woven together through small acts of care. That evening, as the sunset painted the sky gold, Vi took her mother's hand. "Ma," she said softly, "we can't undo the past, but we'll make the future better." Han smiled. That's all any parent ever hopes for. Fuchs nodded, looking out toward the glowing horizon. "We'll stay by your side this time. No more promises, just presence." And for the first time in a long time, there was no guilt in their silence, only peace. The monsoon season came early that year. The sky over Tan Puak darkened with heavy clouds, and the river swelled with restless waves. Rain fell for days without pause, a slow, endless drizzle that soaked the earth and echoed through the tin roofs. Inside the small wooden house, Phuc sat by the window, staring out at the gray sky. The sound of water dripping from the eaves reminded him of childhood storms, how his father used to rush outside to secure the boats, while his mother boiled tea and hummed softly to calm them. Now, it was just him, Vi, and their mother. The house felt smaller, yet strangely fuller, filled with care, laughter, and memories that had finally begun to heal. That afternoon, Han was unusually quiet. She sat in her chair, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to shell beans. "Ma, are you okay?" Vi asked, rushing to her side. "Just a little dizzy," Han replied with a faint smile. "It must be the weather." But Phuc noticed the way her breath caught, the way her eyes fluttered as if fighting off pain. He knelt beside her. "Let's go to the clinic, Ma, just to be safe." She waved her hand weakly. "No need to waste money, Con. I'm fine." "No, Ma," Vi said firmly. "This isn't up for discussion." And for the first time, the two siblings acted not as children seeking permission, but as caretakers protecting what they loved most. At the small local clinic, the doctor frowned as he reviewed her test results. His tone was careful but serious. "Her blood pressure is very high, and her heart's not as strong as it used to be. She needs rest, medication, and regular monitoring." Vi's heart sank. Phuc clenched his jaw. "Can we treat it here?" "You can, but she needs peace. No stress, no heavy work. She must avoid strong emotions." When they brought her home, Han laughed softly, trying to ease their worry. "I told you I was fine. Doctors always make it sound worse than it is." But later that night, as the rain pounded on the roof, Phuc sat awake by her bedside, watching her breathe. Her chest rose and fell slowly, each breath fragile as glass. He whispered to himself, "I can't lose her too. Not now. Not after we've just begun to make things right." From that day forward, everything changed again. Phuc and Vi divided the care between them. One cooked, one cleaned, one stayed by her side while the other ran errands. The small garden behind the house thrived, and though they still sold vegetables, their priority was now keeping their mother healthy and happy. Every morning, Vi prepared warm tea for Han, gently rubbing her mother's hands to ease the stiffness. Phuc kept track of her medication, learning from the village nurse how to take her blood pressure and what signs to watch for. Han protested, "You two are treating me like a child." Vi laughed, "Good. Now you'll know how it felt when you used to do this for us." Even Phuc smiled, a rare, genuine smile. "Your turn to be taken care of, Ma." But as the days passed, the illness slowly stole more of her strength. There were times when she sat by the window, staring at the river for hours, lost in thought. "What are you thinking, Ma?" Phuc asked once. She smiled faintly. "About your father. He used to love this view. He'd say the river never really ends. It just flows somewhere new." Her eyes softened. "When my time comes, I want to believe love is like that river. It doesn't end, It just changes course. Vi grabbed her hand. Don't talk like that, Ma. You'll live to see your grandchildren. Han chuckled weakly. Maybe. But even if I don't, I've already seen what I needed. You two finding your way home. One night, the storm grew fierce. Thunder rolled through the valley and lightning illuminated the river in flashes of white. The power went out, plunging the house into darkness. Phúc lit a candle, his hands trembling. From the bedroom, he heard his mother calling softly. He rushed in. Han was sitting up, her face pale, her breathing shallow. "Ma, stay with me," he said, panic rising. Vi ran for her bag, fumbling for medicine. The candle flickered wildly, shadows dancing across the walls. "Breathe slowly, Ma. Please," Vi whispered, tears streaming down her face. Han looked at them both, her eyes glistening. Her voice was faint, but calm. "Don't cry. You've both done more than enough." "No, Ma," Phúc said, gripping her hand. "We're not done yet. You can't." She squeezed his hand gently. "Listen to me. Promise me something." "Anything," Vi sobbed. "Promise me you'll live well. Take care of each other. Don't waste time chasing things that don't matter. Family. That's what matters." They both nodded, unable to speak. Her hand trembled in theirs, and then, slowly, the tension eased. Outside, the storm began to fade. Hours later, the rain stopped. The candle burned low, filling the room with soft, golden light. Han slept peacefully, her breath steady again. Phúc and Vi sat beside her, still holding her hands. Neither spoke, but they didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer one of regret, but of promise. The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds, shining across the wet earth. The river glimmered as if reborn after the storm. Phúc stepped outside, inhaling deeply. The air was cool, fresh, full of life. He turned to Vi and said softly, "We'll keep that promise, Em. For her. For Ba." Vi nodded, tears in her eyes but a smile on her lips. "We will. From now on, everything we do will be for them. And for us." The storm had passed, but its echo lingered. In the puddles that shimmered beneath the morning sun, in the smell of wet earth that filled the yard, and in the quiet that followed the chaos. Phúc and Vi stepped outside together, the ground soft under their feet. The little house by the river had survived another storm, just as their family had survived so many before. But something had changed. Subtly, permanently. Inside, their mother was still asleep. The doctor had said she was stable but weak, that her body would take time to recover. For the first time in years, both siblings felt the weight and the gift of time. That morning, Phúc walked to the back of the house where an old patch of land lay covered in weeds and broken bamboo stakes. It was the garden their father used to tend, once full of vegetables, herbs, and jasmine that perfumed the air at dusk. He crouched down, brushed aside the overgrown vines, and whispered to himself, "We'll bring it back, Ba. We'll make it beautiful again." Vi joined him, a basket of seeds in her arms. "You're thinking what I'm thinking?" she asked, smiling softly. "Yeah, let's start over. For her. And for us." They began with the soil. Each handful of earth was dark and heavy, soaked with rain and memory. Phúc turned the ground with an old hoe, while Vi cleared away roots and stones. The sun broke through the clouds little by little, warming their backs as they worked. "Do you remember when Ba used to make us plant morning glories?" Vi said, laughing. "He'd promised to buy us ice cream if we didn't fight for a whole day." Phúc chuckled. "And you always cheated. You'd stay quiet until evening, then yell at me right before dinner." "You deserved it," she teased. The laughter felt good, light and free, like the air after the rain. By noon, they had cleared nearly the entire patch. Vi stood, stretching her sore back. "What should we grow first?" Phúc looked toward the river, thinking. "Her favorite, jasmine and ginger for her tea." Maybe some tomatoes like she used to grow for Ba. Vi nodded. Then let's plant memories, one by one. They spent the next few days rebuilding the garden. Phúc repaired the old bamboo fence. Vi repainted the water jar. They used broken pots as planters, glass bottles as borders, turning what was once forgotten into something full of life again. Each seed they planted carried a story. The way their father taught them to water the roots, the way their mother used to hum while picking herbs. The garden slowly came alive, green returning where brown once ruled. Every evening, Han would sit by the window wrapped in a shawl, watching them work. Her smile grew stronger each day. "You two are just like him," she said once, her voice trembling with pride. "He would have loved this." Vi leaned on the windowsill. "It's your garden too, Ma. You'll walk in it again soon." Han chuckled. "Maybe. But even if I can't, just seeing it from here is enough. It feels like home again." Weeks passed and the garden flourished. Butterflies returned. The jasmine vines climbed the fence, filling the air with soft sweetness at dusk. Phúc set up a small wooden bench by the edge of the garden, the same spot where his father once drank tea in the mornings. Now, he and Vi sat there together, often in silence, listening to the rustle of leaves and the distant flow of the river. One evening, Vi said quietly, "Do you ever think about what will happen after?" Phúc looked at her. "After what?" She hesitated. "When Ma's gone." He was silent for a moment, then said, "I think we'll keep doing what we're doing. Take care of this place, take care of each other. That's what she'd want." Vi nodded, her eyes glistening in the fading light. "Maybe we'll plant something new every year, something that reminds us of her." "Yeah," Phúc said softly, "like a promise that never ends." That night, the moon rose full and golden over the river. Han sat by the window, the faint hum of her lullaby floating through the air, the same song she used to sing when they were children. Phúc and Vi paused in the garden, listening. The melody carried warmth and nostalgia, a reminder that even when love fades from sight, it remains rooted in the heart. Phúc whispered, "She's getting stronger." "Maybe," Vi said. "But even if she's not, she's at peace. Look at her. She's happy." They stood there together, surrounded by the scent of jasmine and earth, and for the first time they didn't feel afraid of what was to come. Months later, the garden became the soul of their home. Neighbors often stopped by to visit, bringing gifts, asking for herbs, or simply to chat. Everyone said the same thing, that the place felt alive, like it breathed kindness and memory. Han would smile and wave from her chair, proud of her children. "They've done it all," she'd say. "They've turned sorrow into beauty." And every time someone complimented the garden, Phúc and Vi would exchange a knowing look. Because it wasn't just a garden. It was their apology, their gratitude, their way of saying we finally understand. It happened on a quiet afternoon in early spring. The air smelled of jasmine again, the garden in full bloom. Birds perched on the fence, chirping between the vines as if to bless the new life that had returned to the little house by the river. Phúc had decided to fix the floorboards in his father's old room, the same small room where a fishing net still hung on the wall and an oil lamp sat untouched on the desk. Dust coated everything, but the space still felt alive, as if his father's presence lingered in the silence. As he pried open one of the warped wooden planks, something caught his eye. A small, yellowed envelope tucked between the boards, sealed but brittle with age. His breath caught. "Vi," he called softly, "come here. You need to see this." Vi came rushing in, wiping her hands on her apron. "What is it?" "It's a letter. Looks like Ba's handwriting." For a long moment, they just stared at it. Neither dared to open it right away, as though the letter itself might crumble under their touch, or that reading it would stir something too deep to bear. Finally, with trembling fingers, Phúc tore the seal. The paper crackled softly, and a faint scent of old ink and time filled the room. The letter read, My dear children, if you're reading this, it means I've gone ahead of you. Don't be sad. Life moves like the river. It doesn't stop for anyone. I was never a rich man. I couldn't give you much. No grand house, no savings. All I ever had were these calloused hands, this small patch of earth, and the wish that you'd both live better than I did. When you were little, I used to watch you sleep and think, if I can give them even a little more than I had, my life will be worth it. I didn't fear hunger or storms or even death. What I feared most was the day you'd grow up and forget what this home once meant. Because one day, you will both leave. That's how life works. But I hope you'll remember that your roots are here, in this soil, under this roof, beside the river that carried our laughter. And when your ma grows old, please don't leave her alone. She'll never ask for much. Maybe a bowl of soup, a conversation, or just to hear your voices. She'll say she's fine, but she's not. She'll miss you more than you'll ever understand. If you find this letter after I'm gone, promise me one thing. Take care of each other. Take care of her. That's all I want. Bah. The words blurred as Vy's tears fell onto the page. Pooch pressed his hand against the letter, unable to speak. For years he had carried guilt. For leaving home, for chasing success, for not being there when their father's heart gave out that quiet night. Now, reading these words, he realized that their father had never blamed them. He had only loved them, silently, endlessly, unconditionally. Vi whispered through tears, he knew. He knew we'd come back someday. Fook nodded slowly. He always believed we would. They sat on the wooden floor, surrounded by sunlight filtering through the cracked window. Outside, the jasmine swayed in the breeze, the same flowers their father had once planted with his rough, loving hands. That evening, they placed the letter in a small frame and hung it beside the old fishing net. It looked humble, but sacred, a reminder that love doesn't vanish with death. It simply changes form. Han, now stronger, shuffled into the room to see what they had been doing. Vi guided her to the chair and handed her the letter. Han read it silently, her lips trembling. When she finished, she placed her hand on the frame and whispered, "You foolish man. Even after all this time, you still worry about us." Tears glistened in her eyes, but she smiled. He always said he didn't know how to write well, but this is perfect. That night, the three of them sat together by the garden. Fook brewed tea, Vi lit a small oil lamp, and Han hummed her husband's favorite song, the same one he used to sing on quiet fishing nights. "Do you think he can see us?" Vi asked. "He can," Han said softly. "He's in every breeze, every wave, every star above the river. He's here." Fook looked up at the sky. The moon reflected on the water, and for the first time in years, he felt peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from understanding. Later, when everyone had gone to sleep, Fook returned to the garden alone. He stood before the jasmine vines, their white petals glowing faintly in the moonlight. He whispered, "Bah, we found your letter. We'll take care of her. We'll take care of each other. I promise." The wind stirred gently, rustling the leaves as if in reply. Sometimes, love doesn't need to be spoken aloud. It waits, beneath floorboards, in gardens, in the hearts of those who finally learn how to listen. And in that little riverside house, love spoke once more. Not through words, but through peace, through forgiveness, through the quiet rustle of jasmine in the night. Spring drifted gently into summer, wrapping the little riverside house in golden warmth. The jasmine garden bloomed brighter than ever, its fragrance floating softly through every window. The once silent home was alive again, with laughter, with the sound of boiling tea, with the heartbeat of family. Yet beneath it all, a quiet truth lingered. Mrs. Hand's health was fading. Her body had grown frail, her steps slower, her voice softer. Though she smiled every day, her eyes sometimes wandered. as if searching for someone beyond the horizon. One morning, as she sipped her ginger tea, Vi looked at her mother and said, "Ma, your birthday's coming soon. What would you like this year?" Han chuckled, shaking her head. "At my age, child, birthdays aren't something to count anymore." But Vi smiled gently. "Maybe, but this one's special. We'll make it beautiful, like Ba would have wanted." Phúc nodded in agreement. "We'll invite the neighbors, cook your favorite dishes, decorate the garden with lanterns. You just have to sit and smile." Her eyes shimmered, with love, pride, and a hint of sadness. "You two, always so stubborn. Fine. One last celebration, for your father's sake." And so they began to prepare. The week before her birthday, the house buzzed with quiet excitement. Phúc repaired the bamboo chairs and painted the old table. Vi went to the market, buying fresh vegetables, fish, and a few flowers. In the evenings, they planned every detail: the menu, the decorations, even the songs they would sing. "Do you think she'll like it?" Vi asked, tying ribbons onto lanterns. "She'll love it," Phúc said, "not because it's perfect, but because it's from us." On the morning of her birthday, the river shimmered under soft sunlight. The neighbors came early, bringing gifts, homemade cakes, flowers, and baskets of fruit. The little house filled with chatter and laughter. Han sat by the window, wearing a light pink ao dye that Vi had tailored for her. Her hair was thin and silver, but her smile, her smile, was radiant. When Phúc entered with a small birthday cake, her eyes widened. It wasn't tea grand, just a simple vanilla cake with white cream and a few jasmine petals on top. But in that simplicity, there was love that words could never express. "Happy birthday, Ma," they said together. For a moment, she didn't speak. She simply stared at them, her children, now grown, now tender. "You remembered," she whispered. "After all these years, you still remember." "How could we forget?" Vi said, kneeling beside her. "You never forgot us." As the candles flickered, Han closed her eyes. The guests grew quiet, waiting for her to make a wish. She took a slow breath, her voice trembling like the flame before her. "I wish for peace. Not for myself, but for my children. That when I'm gone, they'll live without regret." Her words drifted into the air like incense smoke, soft and haunting. Phúc felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't speak. Vi held her mother's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. The candles burned low. The garden shimmered in the afternoon light, lanterns swaying, jasmine blooming, laughter mingling with tears. Later that evening, when the guests had gone home and the dishes were washed, Han called her children to her bedside. She reached under her pillow and pulled out a small wooden box. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Phúc. Inside were two things: an old photo and a gold ring. The photo was of their family from long ago: Han, Thang, and the two children sitting by the river, smiling under the mango tree. The gold ring, worn and thin, was the one their father used to wear. "He wanted you to have this," Han whispered. "He said it would remind you that love doesn't fade, it just changes hands." Phúc voice cracked. "Ma, don't talk like that. I'm not afraid, Kana," she said softly. "I've seen enough sunsets to know that every ending is just a beginning in disguise." She looked at Vi then, the daughter who had once left but returned stronger. "And you, take care of your brother. You've always had the gentlest heart." Vi wept openly now, burying her face in her mother's lap. "Don't leave us yet, not now." Han stroked her hair, smiling. "Shh, I'm not leaving. I'll just rest for a while. You'll still find me here, in the garden, in your laughter, in every morning you wake to the sound of the river." That night, the siblings sat outside long after their mother had fallen asleep. The garden glowed under the moonlight. The scent of jasmine surrounded them, familiar, eternal. "It's strange," Vi whispered. "She's the one who's sick, but it feels like she's comforting us." "That's what she's always done," Phúc said. "She gives and gives until there's nothing left." Vi leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you think we've made it up to her? For all the years we were gone?" He was silent for a long time. Then he said quietly, "I don't think love keeps score." Inside the house, Han stirred in her sleep, her breathing soft and even. A faint smile touched her lips. Perhaps she was dreaming. Of her husband, of their youth, of a home where love had finally come full circle. And outside, the lantern swayed gently in the night breeze, carrying the glow of that love into the dark, where it would never die. The rain came without warning that evening. Gentle at first, then steady, then endless. Each drop struck the roof like a slow heartbeat. Inside the small riverside house, the air was still, heavy with the scent of damp jasmine and the faint hum of a single oil lamp. Mrs. Han lay in her bed, her breath shallow but peaceful. The doctor had come earlier, his eyes kind but resigned. "She's tired," he told Vi softly. "Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. All you can do now is be with her." Those words echoed in Vi's chest like thunder rolling over a quiet lake. She nodded, unable to speak. Phúc placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We'll stay," he said simply. And so they did. The hours crept by. Outside, the river whispered softly, rising with the rain. The garden lanterns, the same ones they had hung for her birthday, swayed in the wind, flickering like the fragile flame of a soul about to depart. Han's eyes opened slowly. "Is it night?" she asked faintly. "Yes, Ma," Vi replied, leaning close. "It's a calm night, the rain singing for you." The old woman smiled. "Your father loved the rain, said it made the world softer." She turned her gaze to Phúc, whose face was hidden in shadow. "My son," she whispered, "you've grown into your father's heart. Steady, quiet, stubborn." Phúc swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "I wasn't always a good son." "Nonsense," she said. "Love doesn't need perfection, only presence." Her words lingered, warm, slow, final. As the clock ticked past midnight, the rain began to ease. Vi brewed tea, though none of them drank it. The room glowed in amber light, soft and almost sacred. Han motioned weakly toward the window. "Open it. I want to hear the river." Phúc pushed the shutters open. Cool night air swept in, carrying the scent of wet earth and blooming jasmine. The river's rhythm filled the room, a lullaby as old as time. "You know," she murmured, "when I first held you both, I promised the river that I would raise you strong enough to face its storms." "And you did," Vi whispered. "You kept your promise." Her eyes softened. "Then promise me something in return." "Anything." "Don't let the world make you bitter. Don't let loss turn you into stone. When I'm gone, love each other more. That's how you'll keep me alive." Vi's tears fell freely now. Phúc turned away, his fists clenched, not in anger, but in helpless love. The clock struck 1. The wind outside had calmed. The rain stopped. Han's breathing grew lighter, slower, fragile as a thread. Her gaze drifted to the ceiling as though seeing something beyond. "He's waiting," she whispered. Vi leaned close. "Who, Ma?" "Your father. He's standing by the river, calling my name." A small smile formed on her lips. Her hand, frail and trembling, reached out into the air. Vi took it and held it tight. "Go to him," Vi said softly. "We'll be okay. We'll take care of each other." Phúc knelt beside her, tears finally breaking through. "We love you, Ma. Always." "I know," she breathed. Her eyes fluttered once, twice, then stilled. A hush fell upon the room. The oil lamp flickered and went out. Outside, the river sang on, a quiet hymn for a soul returning home. At dawn, the sky blushed with pale light. The rain had washed everything clean. Birds sang timidly, unaware of the sorrow inside the small house. Vi and Phúc prepared their mother's altar with care, a bowl of rice, her favorite lotus tea, and the gold ring she had given them back. They didn't cry anymore. The tears had already spoken all that words could not. When the monks arrived to chant, their voices rose like wind over water, the air filled with incense, with memory, with peace. Vi looked at her mother's face one last time, serene, luminous, untouched by pain. "You were right," she whispered. "Every ending is a beginning." Phúc placed a hand on her shoulder, and love doesn't fade. It just changes hands. That night, after the funeral, the siblings sat by the river once more. The moon floated above them, reflected in the calm water. For the first time in years, neither spoke. They didn't need to. After a long silence, Vi said quietly, "You think she's watching us right now?" Phúc nodded. "I don't think. I know. She's in the wind, the water, the light. She's in everything that still breathes." The jasmine scent drifted by again, gentle as a mother's hand. And for a fleeting moment they both smiled through their tears, because somewhere, somehow, she was smiling too. Morale: parents give without measure, like rivers flowing to the sea. Children often return that love too late, counting days instead of moments. But even then, love forgives. Love waits. Love never dies. The morning air was crisp, scented with wet earth and blooming jasmine. The river flowed gently, reflecting the pale light of dawn like a mirror of the past. Phúc and Vi stood at the water's edge, carrying the small wooden urn that contained their mother's ashes. For a long moment, neither spoke. The weight of loss pressed on them. Yet within that weight was a strange comfort, a quiet understanding that love, once given, never truly leaves. Vi knelt and opened the urn. The ashes glimmered faintly in the morning light, like golden dust sprinkled with memories. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Phúc nodded. "She's always been ready. We just need to let her go." Together, they walked into the shallow edge of the river. The water lapped gently around their feet, cold yet soothing. "Ma," Vi whispered, "this is for you, for everything you gave us." Phúc released the ashes slowly, letting the river carry them away. The golden particles swirled, merging with the current, floating downstream like whispers of the past. They watched in silence as the water moved steadily, unceasing, unstoppable. A river of memory, of love, of sacrifice. The wind rustled the jasmine vines behind them. Phúc took a deep breath, feeling the presence of both his parents in the gentle motion of the leaves, in the soft murmur of the river, in the sunlight that broke through the clouds. "She's here," he said quietly. Vi nodded, tears streaming, but her lips curved into a soft smile. "Always. She's everywhere we need her to be." The siblings stayed by the river for hours. They remembered the laughter, the lessons, the scoldings, and the love that had never wavered, even when it was unspoken. "Do you remember what she said?" Vi asked after a while. "About not letting loss make us bitter?" "I do," Phúc replied, "and I think we finally understand that love is more than moments. It's a lifetime of caring, forgiving, and remembering." By noon, the river had carried the ashes far downstream. Phúc and Vi walked back to the garden, now vibrant and alive with the flowers they had planted. The jasmine swayed in the breeze, as if dancing to the rhythm of their mother's heartbeat. "She'd be proud of this," Vi said. "All of it." Phúc smiled faintly, brushing dirt from his hands. "She's proud of us. And now, it's our turn to take care of what she loved." The siblings spent the afternoon in quiet work, tending the garden, watering the plants, and speaking softly to the memories of their parents. Every flower, every herb, every blade of grass became a symbol of love returned, a promise kept. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden light across the river, Vi sat on the bench their father had once used. Phúc joined her. Together, they watched the water flow, steady, eternal, like the lessons of life themselves. "Do you think she's happy now?" Vy asked. Phúc nodded slowly. "I know she is. She's free. And she's with him. And we finally understand what she meant by love without counting." They sat in silence for a long time, letting the peace settle over them. The world seemed simpler now. The pain of loss was softened by gratitude, by understanding, by the quiet, enduring power of family. That night, the siblings returned inside the house. The garden lanterns glowed faintly in the evening light. They lit a small candle for their mother, placing it by the framed letter of their father. "For them," Phúc whispered, "for everything they taught us." Vy held his hand gently. "And for us, too," she said. The candle burned softly, a light against the dark, a symbol of memory, love, and the bond that cannot be broken, even by death. Epilogue. The river continued its endless journey. The garden bloomed with the seasons, each flower a testament to love given, lessons learned, and promises kept. Phúc and Vy grew stronger, kinder, and more patient with one another. They understood now that life's true wealth is not measured in days or possessions, but in care, presence, and love freely given. If your parents or someone you love left you tomorrow, would you treasure the moments you still have today? Would you show your love before it's too late? Because sometimes letting go is not losing. It's finding peace, remembering, and carrying their love forward.